What's up and welcome back. I'm John Stark from MakeTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today I'm talking about one of my favorite movies. This is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It's celebrating its 20th anniversary this year. It's a terribly undervalued movie from 2004 that has like a ton of fans now. I'm not going to say it's underrated now or undervalued now, but when you look back at 2004 and realize this film, got goose egged at the Academy Awards, it's really just uh it's incredibly disappointing because the package for this is like best picture, best director, best actor, best actress, best screenplay for sure, best original screenplay, best cinematography, best editing, best, I would say, probably production design. I love the score, so I'm gonna say best score. I mean, like, this, why didn't this sweep? This is one of those things where we look back on it and just like wonder what happened at the Academy Awards. I want awards contender to just like do an entire deep dive into what the fuck happened with Eternal Sunshine because it's so mind-boggling when you rewatch this movie and you're like, this is such a work, such a feast cinematically that it's deeply original. It's incredibly heartfelt. Michel Gondry directed the hell out of this movie. It has leaps and jumps and bounds and nothing. It's Jim Carrey's best performance. He's so human. He's so real here. I loved him in Truman Show, and I would have loved for that to be his first nomination. I would have loved to see him get nominated for Man on the Moon. I would love for people to have, be upset about the fact that he didn't get in for Truman Show and then try to clean up. But definitely, by the time we got to Eternal Sunshine, it was just like, what problem do you have with Jim Carrey at this point? Because his work here is flawless. So, yeah, I definitely would have found a spot for him. I know 2004 was a tough year, and there were definitely other performances that missed out that I love dearly. I would name check Kevin Kline and DeLovely as another one. But I love DeLovely also as a film. And but just by the time you get to Jim Carrey and you realize how many times he's been snubbed, it's like, well, Kevin Kline has an Oscar. So even in that situation, if I was, Sophie's choicing it, I would have still given Carrey the vote to get in for a nomination. Now, if you want to vote for him to win, that's a completely different thing. But come on now. Of course, this is like the Paul Giamatti year also. So for Sideways, which is just... Anyway, Oscar voters sometimes really suck, is what I'm trying to say. So that's really, do I need to review? Can we just talk about how Oscar voters suck sometimes? Because they do. They get it wrong. And then you look back on it, you look at the nominations, you're like, what movie is that? Does anybody care about that? Like, you're just like, well, what was that? Every once in a while that happens, and you're just like, yeah, but that didn't, and we didn't get that, and anyway. So I do own this as a digital copy on Apple because I love the movie. I have the DVD. This is one of those things where it highlights the plight of the blind, which is, if I want to watch this movie with audio description, which you kind of have to, even though I've seen it a bunch of times, the way that it jumps once they start doing, I'm just gonna call it the process right now. I haven't really dove into the description of the movie, but once they start going into the work that they have to do, things move really quickly, and we jump through things that don't necessarily have any sort of semblance in reality, because we are sort of in his mind. And so when you're in someone's mind, anything can happen. Things don't have to follow the normal course. If you've ever had a dream before and you've been like, wow, that was bizarre, Michel Gondry captures that perfectly here. The fact that he wasn't nominated for Jesus. Anyway, and also, by the way, can we bring him back? Like, please? Like, I know the man directed Green Hornet. It's been a long fucking time. A lot of people have directed some shitty movies. Like, he directed a shitty movie. Fine. The Green Hornet was never the kind of thing where I was like, oh, that seems like a Michel Gondry movie. You know? Like, we should let him do that. But he has some really solid work in the 2000s. And then he does The Green Hornet, and then it's like American cinema just doesn't want to give him money again. And then he just goes back to France. And we've never heard from him again. Like, he did Kidding with Jim Carrey. Like, Jim, I guess, threw his buddy a bone, and I'm sure he directed, like, probably the pilot of Kidding. Um, but other than that, it's like, if you look at his filmography, you're like, where has he been? There's so many films that I've seen since then that I'm like, that film would have been better if Michel Gondry had directed it. That would have been a better film with somebody with that level of vision and just uniqueness to their style and brand. It'd be like if we gave up on Wes Anderson after, like, I don't know, pick a movie that didn't do well at the box office, and just okay. Well, I mean, he's been allowed to continue to do his brand over and over and over and over. So just let the man. We should have so many great Michel Gondry movies by now, and he easily should have an Oscar. But I digress. Obviously, this is just going to be a really angry rant video, and I'm never going to get to talk about the movie because every time I talk about Eternal Sunshine, there's just all of this stuff, all this shit with its like history of why have you not known? Anyway, it's a great movie, and you should watch it. You really should. And thanks for being here and already listening to the rant. So, what is it about? It's about a man who we see him. Jim Carrey is the lead here, and we see him sort of like falling in love with Clementine, played by Kate Winslet. She's got this blue hair. She seems sort of really offbeat and quirky, and he's sort of captivated by her. And then, things just don't go well, and the relationship runs its course. But then he runs into people and he finds that there's this card that, like, people who knew the two of them have been told, that Clementine has had her mind erased, and that Carrie can't be mentioned anymore around her. Please don't, because she's chosen to erase him, and blah blah blah. And so he's like, who are these people, and what so he storms the castle, and that's where we're introduced to a host of characters, from Tom Wilkinson, Kirsten Dunst, Elijah Wood, Mark Ruffalo are all sort of in this segment of the movie, doing the tech work. Also has a great cast, by the way. Just those four people alone, I just named four people, and you should have just, I don't know, gotten aroused. It's like, ooh, that's four people. I want to watch that, whatever that movie is. I mean, like, Elijah's the only one who isn't an Oscar nominee in that group. So, just as a reference. Anyway, although he should be. We can get into that one if you want. How Elijah Wood probably should have gotten nominated for playing Frodo in Lord of the Rings. The one that you always hear these people are like, that's the greatest film trilogy of all time. Who starred in it? Elijah Wood. Is he nominated for an Oscar? No. That's called a thankless performance. Anyway, so we're back. Anyway, I seem to be mad at the Oscars today. So Carrey hears it out, and he's like, well, I might as well get, I don't want to suffer through the pain, especially knowing that she did this to me. Like, she opted to have me erased. So the procedure seems pretty simple. Put together all of the things, all the belongings that would remind you of her, any pictures or anything like that. So that way, when you wake up in the morning, you don't have anything left of her. And then while he's sleeping, these technicians are going into his brain, and they're finding the path and removing Clementine. And so he has this really interesting sort of like dream sleep romance with this version of Clementine that's in his head that's built on memories, and he gets to relive his entire relationship with her, and he seems like he's in a race to, like, he pretty instantaneously regrets his decision to have her erased, and is trying to sort of outrun the eraser. And so many just fantastic moments for audio description here of things that happen that just don't necessarily make any sense if we're talking about like the real world, like reality. And it brings back so many visual elements. There's a shot that I love that is forced perspective with Jim under the table, and then it looks like he's smaller than Kate Winslet, but he's not. It's just forced perspective. It's just the way that set was built. Michel Gondry didn't use any like weird visual effects for that. He just shot it in a certain way that forced the camera's perspective. And the fact that we have a director that fucking knows how to do that is just like, nowadays it'd be like green screen and, you know, get in, we need you to get mocap shoot and we can shrink you down. No, Michel Gondry just was like, so we're gonna rebuild the set here, and you know, I'm gonna put the camera here, it's gonna make it look, and we got this, you know, good stuff. Brilliant director. I'm just gonna keep saying that over and over. There's no way that you can't watch this and just go, man, that dude, you know, like choices, like life choices. This is a film where I would watch this and just go, this man has a future. I don't care if he makes Green Hornet. Do you know what I'm saying? Like he gets to keep making movies after that. He just like keep giving him more. Don't send him back to France, where like I don't know what he's been doing, and he's been doing like music videos and stuff. It's like, no, keep giving him the budget that he needs and the support that he requires so he can continue to make good movies. Has he hit Eternal? To be fair, he doesn't have that many movies after Eternal Sunshine, so no, Science of Sleep is not at Eternal Sunshine's level. No, Be Kind Rewind is not, although a lot of people love Be Kind Rewind. So, you know, that's a fair discussion. But obviously Green Hornet, which didn't play well, you know. But God, there's so many moments in this where just like heartbreaking little things between Jim and Kate that you're just sitting there and just like, wow. And it speaks so much volumes to relationships and what they mean to us, even when they're no longer there, even when they're no longer present, how much somebody means in those memories, in those times, in the good and the bad. And in revisiting, when he goes back through his memories of Clementine, he gets to see all the choices he could have made differently, the things he could have done differently, instead of, you know, that blame game that we always have when a relationship ends, where we talk about, oh, it was the other person, or it was, you know. He really does sort of take a lot of ownership in certain places of saying, I should have stayed. I left, I should have stayed. You know, like he knows at certain moments where he didn't do what he was supposed to do. And I just think that it's such a great movie. It's got to be an instant classic. I always ask after doing these anniversary reviews, has it stood the ad? Yes, this has stood the test of time. This has become, if anything, film Twitter's like a one of those benchmark movies where people still love it and talk about it in a way that it's like, oh, Eternal Sunshine. Yes. It did not have its day. And I think because it didn't have its day, it's going to have an even stronger reaction moving forward. You know, sometimes the films that don't win, the films that don't get nominated, but should have, they end up having a rabid fan base, like longer and longer and longer and longer, you know? Just look at the reaction to Fight Club and how many people have loved Fight Club for years, and that didn't get any nominations. So just got, well, whatever. Yeah. So Eternal Sunshine benefits in the long run from having more fans devoted to it because they feel like it's their little thing that Hollywood ignored. And it's kind of like, honestly, it feels like Jim Carrey kind of gave up after this. I mean, he has a couple more movies after this, but he doesn't really swing for the Oscar quite like he does for Eternal Sunshine. Um, I suppose I Love You, Philip Morris. Somebody's going to try to say that that was another swing. I don't know. Was it? It's not. It's not Eternal Sunshine. Maybe he thought it was, but it certainly wasn't Eternal Sunshine or Truman Show or Man on the Moon. So he really tried to give them what they wanted, and he was smartly cast in roles that were perfect for him. And this is a great film. It's one of my favorites, Desert Island. And uh, I'm I even the subplots with the, like I said, the other main characters, Kirsten Dunst, Tom Wilkinson, Mark Ruffalo, Elijah Wood, even that stuff, when we break away, um, there's something happening there, you know, especially between Wilkinson and Dunst, um, and that just kind of supports the overall theme to the movie, and uh, it gives sort of a nice break, like a nice B plot. Like sometimes B plots can be messy, and they don't necessarily support the A plot, but there's the subplot seems to actually reinforce a lot of the themes that the A plot is trying to get through to you about really sort of appreciating experiences and time and relationship and things for what they are. So if you haven't seen Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, do yourself a favor and see it. It's an excellent movie, and one of the best anniversary titles I've done this year. So I'm giving Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind an A+, because it deserves it. Anyway, and also, I should be doing a revisiting the Oscars, because I usually do it on the 10, so 10, 20, 30, however far back I feel like I can go based on how many movies I've seen from that year. So, yeah, I should be redoing this, and let's see how many categories I fit it into, considering everything else that's around. But thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I will see you guys on the other side.